Clear? Egolessness. In a sense, when you begin to discover, when you say egolessness, meaning, I think it's that the problem here is when you say egolessness, often the idea is like, egolessness always tend to be that like you-lessness. There's no you, absence of you. And that's sometimes a problem for people. People like to be yourself. You like to be yourself. You don't like to be not you. Do you know what I mean? So when you say egolessness is a problem, I think what you have to understand truly is when you say egolessness is that the you free of the complicated aspect of yourself, the problematic aspect of yourself, the neurotic aspect of yourself, which are the, the imprisonments, When you're free of the problems, in fact there is a way out. That's what it's called, egolessness in some ways. Do you understand what I'm saying? And ego is there as long as we nurture it, but it is not there if you realize it. It's like a darkness. You see, if there's a light, there is no darkness. Where there's no light, then there is darkness. Like that, very much. So that's why it's called egolessness, because darkness is not a reality. Ego is not an ultimate, not an absolute truth. It's only a relative existence. Do you know what I mean? Then when you go further and examine that, when you talk about egolessness, it's only a little bit individual, like you're looking at yourself only. That's why it's called egoless. But when this egolessness, when you begin to look, not only in yourself, but when you begin to look into life a little bit more, look at everything, then you begin to realize not only you, but even the phenomena is empty, and the mind itself empty. Then that realization of emptiness is like the more greater vision of egolessness. You can say the egolessness of the other, the egolessness of the I, the egolessness of the other. Then there is the freedom of grasping and the fixation, the subject-object duality. One is free of the split. And this also, as you know, can only be realized in a certain state of realization, or in the practice of meditation, when one gets in touch with. And so the realization of the egolessness and the shunyata principle gives birth to a kind of a freedom, and then compassion. You understand? I think that's. And what do you understand? Okay, we discussed egolessness a little bit now. Let's say that egolessness is finished. But how about shunyata? Shunyata, or emptiness. What is this thing called emptiness that's talked about so much in Buddhism? What does it really mean? Anybody? What is emptiness? You see, emptiness can be taken as a philosophy, as a theory or a concept. That's not what actually emptiness is really. In fact, actually it is said that it is even empty of the concept. So therefore, what does it mean? Tell me. Huh?
Like a reflection in a mirror.
Yeah.
But the mirror is only yourself, and that is only your mind.
Pardon?
The reflection of yourself
Yeah.
in a mirror.
Yeah.
But it's only a reflection because the mirror is reflecting of you.
Yeah.
It's only of your mind. Only of your mind.
What is holy?
It's a reflection.
Yes.
You're only seeing a reflection of yourself.
Yeah, okay. Like a reflection in your mirror. It's not really there, it just appears in the mirror, okay? Tell me more.
No experience has its own independent characteristic.
No?
No experience or perception has its own independent characteristic.
What do you mean by that?
That anything I see or touch or feel or think isn't existing independently or enduring on its own. There is nothing that's limited or separate from anything else. It's just
everything is interdependent. Yeah, that's true. So what does that prove?
That there is this emptiness of identity.
Okay, can you explain a little bit more clearly? I mean, you got so far very clear, okay? So far very clear. Now, how does that proceed to go and prove emptiness? What is that? How does that bring about, point out to the fact of emptiness?
So that if I try and cling on to myself, who I am, or try and cling on to an experience, it won't last, and I'll be left with something empty of what it was I was trying to hold on to or attach myself to.
Yes, that's kind of an emptiness, yeah. 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 Then carry a little bit further. Anybody? Could you take a little bit further from that? Yes, impermanence of everything. You see, that's true. Everything is kind of interdependent. Whatever you see, what you touch, it does not have an inherent characteristics. It only appears, exists as relatively. And that everything is impermanent, changing. So what does that point to the fact? That it is inherently everything is empty. Now what do we mean empty? Meaning nothing has an inherent characteristic. Nothing exists as a unchangeable reality. Everything is only a kind of, how do you say, phases, you know. Everything is just simply a phase.
No ultimate security in what we see.
No ultimate, how do you say, no ultimate reality. Yeah. But then the realization of that, it's seeing everything is empty is one thing, but the realization, that is called emptiness. Realization. But now I want you to take a little bit further and explain to me what is this realization does to you.
It gives you a sense of humour.
Sense of humour. Why?
Because there's no ground to be in. You realise everything's spacious, therefore it's human.
Yes, true.
The recognition of impermanence of things and of the inherent pain and attachment to things would bring about that realization of emptiness.
You see, I think it's reason why we have pain is because we have not realized that truth. The reason why we have frustration because we have not realized that emptiness. But if you realize the emptiness, in fact, there is no pain. In fact, maybe, let's say, if in life, if you realize the truth of that very strongly, even though there may be pain, there's no pain. Like apparently there's pain, but then there's a knowledge and understanding. There's an interesting point which Buddha said. The nature of life, he said, is pain or frustration. Nature of pain is impermanent. It's impermanent. Moreover, the experiencer of the pain is non-existent. First, when you say nature of pain is impermanent, nature of life is pain, it's kind of bad news, isn't it? It's extremely bad news. Then when you begin to hear to say that, but the nature of pain is impermanent, okay, that's slightly different. If its pain is impermanent, it's not going to stay with you forever. But then the greatest still is when you realize the experience of the pain is non-existent. Then who is there to experience the pain? Really? You know, even the pain itself is inherently empty. But the pain exists interdependently. When there's confusion, then it has negative emotions, wrong views about reality, then the things trigger things, causes all kinds of things, and then you have pain, which are kind of an unreality which has become a reality. So that's why you see, actually one has to look, look into life. Really look, examine. It's no use just believing in a philosophy and just kind of having some nice concept, cushy concepts to sleep on. Because concepts will not work when you're in trouble. When you're in trouble, when you're really faced with difficulties, concepts don't work. It's your own understanding, your own personal experience. So that's why in Buddhism we say the philosophy is known as Tawa. Tawa means, Tawa is to look. To really look into life and really see. To look into life deeply and really see the truth. So examine. So that's why in some ways you should really look at yourself. Especially in meditation. After your mind has arrived at a certain state of calmness through the practice of shamatha, then you reach to a state of clear seeing of vipassana. In that you have certain objectivity, certain clarity and awareness with which you will look at your own thoughts and emotions, how you normally operate, and you see, and you begin to look through that, this kind of insight that, you don't try to control anything, you don't try to change anything, you don't try to manipulate anything, but without controlling, without manipulating, without changing, but looking with that insight into whatever is happening. Just looking and just looking. As you look and look and look, you begin to see clearly. You don't analyze things, but just simply look. If you really look without the analyzing, without the judgmental mind, you actually have, understanding, wisdom. Do you know what I'm saying? That's why sometimes when you just a very simple example is when you meditate sometimes, when your mind is quite calm and clear, your ideas are much clearer. You get all the ideas which you've been forgotten long time comes up, like your shopping list, and all the different ideas come up very clearly, all the thoughts, and you want to write them down. See? Because you see, there's no obstruction. There's a kind of a lucidity in that state. So that, in that state of lucidity, if you look into your mind without obstructing with any kind of manipulation, any, alteration, but just simply looking, you begin to see things clearly, you begin to see, and you become wiser. And that wisdom comes through experience. You have to see in order that you be wise. You notice that you study things, but study is not enough. You have to actually, you have to realize them. You have to digest them, you have to, contemplate on them. That's why I have just realized recently that what I must now start doing is that I travel a lot now. I travel a lot and all over the world teaching, and it's very good and it's very productive. But what I would like to do now is to train students. Those people who really want to study, there are quite a few people who have been with me for a number of years, and like to make sure that they actually know the basic principles, or get the basic points like egolessness. The points, really understand, and not have some kind of a conceptual idea what it is, but have a really, So I want to get down to that level, or the basic level, where I'm going to start a kind of courses, long-term courses, in which to deal with one subject like that and see, and individually each person to find out how they have, you see. Because sometimes you all sit there like this, and I say the whole piece in the teaching, and you sit there, I don't know what you get there, what kind of understanding you get. You might be completely confused. You get, if I say east, you see south. If I say north, you say, you get all completely topsy-turvy, you see. So what you have to see, that what I say you hear. Sometimes very interesting what you hear, you see. Not exactly what you hear what is said. You hear something quite different. So I'm interested very much in that. And especially with some students with whom there's certain amount of hope.